So this is going to be our lecture on standards, laws, and all of your lovely legal responsibilities in regards to technology in the classroom as an educator. This can be a little weighty, so I'm going to try to go slow, and I'm going to kind of give you Cliff Notes version of most of the stuff. We are going to spend some time focusing on copyright because that is where you can get into a whole heaping heck of hot water. And most districts do not cover copyright once you become an educator. So I want you to get that information now before you go into the classroom. So we have ISTE standards, and these are standards from the International Society of Technology Educators. And they have educator standards and they have student standards. So the educator standards go through and talk about what you, the teacher, the educator in the classroom, should be able to do with technology. That's all this is. This is what you should be able to do. So you have 7 areas. You are a learner, so continually improving the practice by learning from and with others, and exploring proven, promising practices and leveraging technology to improve students' learning. Under each one of these, there are ABC, etc., to give you specific breakdowns of what that standard means. We're going to explore some of these throughout our class. We're going to get you involved in some of these by doing our Twitter chats. That's how you can stay current. That's how you can work with other educators, is by doing the Twitter chats. You see, as a leader, you seek out opportunities for leadership to support student empowerment and success and to improve teaching and learning. Once you graduate college, that's not the end of this. Most teachers eventually go back and get a master's degree. I have a master's degree in library science, specializing in school librarianship. So I have an MLSSL from Sam Houston State University here in Texas, which is where I currently live. You are a citizen, and this talks about that digital citizenship that we're going to talk about the very last week of class. So we're going to be working on that when you're working on your blogs, when we're doing our Twitter chats. I'm trying to give you as many opportunities to learn these standards and to be involved with these standards through this class as possible, so that once you're in the classroom, these become second nature to you, especially if you continue with what we start in this class throughout the rest of your career as a pre-service teacher, and then transfer it to when you become a teacher. You're a collaborator. You dedicate time to collaborate with both colleagues and students to improve practice, discover, share resources and ideas, and solve problems. Again, our Twitter chats show you how to do that. We're also going to be collaborating in class. You're going to have the opportunity to share what you learn each week with your classmates and then comment on what they learn, because everybody gets something different out of every class. Everybody gets something different out of every chat. And when you talk with those around you about what they learned and about what you learned, then you learn even more. So we're going to help you kind of learn how to engage in those professional conversations with other educators. You are a designer. This is where your lesson plans come into play. Educators design authentic, learner-driven activities and environments that recognize and accommodate learner variability. So this is something when you're creating those tech lesson plans that you need to be conscious of. You're a facilitator. You facilitate learning with technology to support student achievement of the ISTE standards for students. We'll look at those in a minute. This is kind of where my role is in this course. I am facilitating. I am helping you get these skills. You are an analyst. You're going to understand and use data to drive your instruction and support students in achieving their learning goals. I'm sure you've heard about data in some of your other education classes. Data just overwhelms you when you become a teacher in the classroom. You're going to see so much data, and you need to use that data to make decisions about, did this activity work for these students? Did they get what I wanted them to get? Do we need to reteach? Oh, it worked really well with this class, but not so well with this class. What happened? It happens. So You have to analyze the data that you get back from your students. That data may not be in the form of a test or numerical data, and I'm going to show you some ways to get data through technology with your students. So these are the standards for educators. Go back to where we were. And let's look really quickly at the student standards. Again, they're very similar to teacher. They're going to be an empowered learner. So they're going to leverage technology to take an active role in choosing, achieving, demonstrating competency in their learning goals. Informed by learning sciences, they're going to become digital citizens. They're going to be knowledge constructors. This is why I'm going to have you all create things. You're going to be creating podcasts. You're going to be creating a screencast, which is what you're watching right now. You're going to be creating an infographic. You are going to construct your knowledge into a representation of what you've learned. They're going to be innovative designers. So they're going to use technology to design, identify and solve problems, or create new and imaginative solutions. They're going to be computational thinkers. So they have to understand and solve problems using technology to develop and test solutions. They're going to be creative communicators. You need to teach your students how to communicate with the world around them through technology. And I'm going to give you some tools to help you do that. They're going to be global collaborators. Remember, because we live in such a tech-rich world, we are no longer just our little communities. You can reach out to people all over the world and get them involved in what your students are doing in the classroom, and have your students collaborate with others, not just in your school, but across the nation, across the world. So you need to keep these in mind as you are planning those tech lesson plans. You also have these to go back and look at as part of your RWLE this week, so I want you to look at these in detail. Acceptable use policies. As a teacher, you're going to have one of these, and your students will have one of these. You have one at Rosemont right now as students. This is going to tell you what is okay to do on your district computer and what is not okay to do on your district computer. What are appropriate ways for your students to interact online? What is not appropriate? What happens if they engage in bullying online? Those kinds of things. Be smart about what you do on your work computer, as the district has access to that computer at all times. Even when you're at home, they can see what you're doing. Just heads up. So you need to read these, you need to know what they say and how it applies to you. FERPA, COPA, and SIPA. These are legal guidelines for technology used for students set up by the federal government. FERPA is Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. A lot of you, when you had started attending Rosemont, you had to sign off who is it okay to release your educational data to. That's FERPA. That is all that it is. So you have to know who you can release that information to and who you cannot. COPA. And there's my daughter in the background. This is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule. This is the one that says, you know, what information can be collected about children under the age of 13. This is why children under the age of 13 can't have a Facebook page. They can't have a YouTube account. They're not supposed to be on social media. They don't need a TikTok. Those kinds of things. That's regulated by COPA. And SIPA is the last one. And SIPA is the Children's Internet Protection Act. This goes through and talks about, you know, what schools and libraries are prohibited or required to do to get E-rate funding for internet access at school or at their libraries. That is all of that legal stuff. You can read more about those. You will have access to this PowerPoint with my notes. So you can go back and look at this and go look at those in detail. FERPA, SIPA, COPA. All right. Copyright. This is where you can get into a lot of legal trouble. And this is also the hardest thing to understand. FERPA, COPA, and SIPA is law, and what the law says is what you must do, or what you may not do. But copyright gets a little crazy. So copyright is a form of protection provided by the laws of the United States for original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, architectural, cartographic, which is maps, choreographic, dance, pantomimic, which is pantomiming and miming, pictorial, graphic, sculptural, and audiovisual creations. Copyright legally means the right to copy, but has come to mean that body of exclusive rights granted by law to copyright owners for protection of their work. All right, I'm going to get on my little soapbox now because this is where librarian comes in. A lot of you have heard about Teachers Pay Teachers and are told, oh, it's a great place to go to get resources. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. People make it, they stick it out there, and it's like a couple of dollars, or it's free. The problem becomes when they are using somebody else's work to create something, and they are keeping that privilege of creating new works based on the original work from the copyright owner. A good example of this is teachers who create those reading guides for popular books. You then take that opportunity to create those reading guides and discussion guides away from the author, and so you are violating copyright. So educators, you have a little bit of wiggle room in all of this. It doesn't give you carte blanche to use materials however you desire in your classroom, and you get in trouble for violating copyright and will be held responsible. That means you can be sued and have to pay money. It can be the district, it can be you as a teacher, depending on the situation. You do not want this to happen because when they sue you, they want lots of money. And teachers, we don't have lots of money. The umbrella that you can use is called fair use. Fair use is subject to interpretation. It is a limited use. It needs to be transformative. It has to be for a very specific amount of time. It can't be a forever. The key to all of this is always ask permission, as most are going to say yes. If there's something that you want to use in your classroom, go find out who owns the copyright and ask permission. It may take them a day or two to get back to you, but they will. And most of them are going to say yes. Do not post anything online that you create because then you get in a whole bunch of problems. Do not sell anything that you create as you get in a lot of copyright problems. Use it only in your specific classroom. And more importantly, always get permission. Intellectual property. This is the other part nobody will ever tell you about, so listen up. Read your contract. Most districts will have an intellectual property clause. And what that clause will generally say is that anything that you create while you work for that district is their property. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. Some of them will give you some little loopholes to get through by saying if it's made on district time or you use district resources or property, then it's district property. But read it carefully so that you know if you spend 5 months creating this awesome unit on the periodic table that then helps your students master that content standard, and you leave that district and you want to use it in another district, you may not be able to. So just read your contract carefully for that intellectual property clause. All right, sources. I gave you a direct definition of copyright from the copyright.gov website. There is the link. Everything else is either general knowledge or we went directly to those sites. I will update this and put all of the sites back here for you so that you will have access to them all in one spot and not have to go through the presentation to find each one of those. And that will be done before this is posted in the class for you. That's all for this. If you have questions, feel free to email me, message me on Canvas, and we will talk about copyright in detail in Twitter on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great day. Bye.